so they know the reps and what to expect and how their comp plays to this map. But the other ones, it's looking very one-sided, especially when you're gonna have to match up against Digizine with the operator. I know that we're gonna have this matchup going toe-to-toe between Digizine and Snow, but at the same time, Digizine opping at the VCTs, I think it's demonic that he's not still part of Loud right now, going into the offseason and going into Ascension. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that if it has to go down to that third map where Ascend will probably decide a jet battle between these two teams. But this comp change from Solid to kick things off with this Yoru, you are expecting on the defense to rotate Digizine around the map a lot.
All right, well, that's the things to keep an eye out for as we jump into the pistol for round number 1. A little bit of a forced issue here as Digizine's going to just make his way through Mount and up to the front premise of what you could see over towards C. A little bit of tags from Coated as well. Kind of forces the offense to consider that early pressure. Prowler does not see much at pillars. So for Shinden, it's really just trying to make a decision of where you want to go here after that early damage was tallied today.
This is an experience from Maurice being the IGL here for the team, calling in the pass here for MIBR. Looks like they were just waiting out the TP to disappear from the Euros so they could tempo up into a site. Now they're looking for map control to split into B, but this big flank from Digizine could be huge.
And Rafa's already in position, but immediately falls. Good opener. And then the flank gets a little turned around as Digizine was looking for someone to lurking over towards pillars, not the case. And all of a sudden, Shinden actually has a pretty free plant. Battle towards small also goes their direction, as that's going to be 2. And leaves Conan, well, not alive anymore, apparently, as the fist bumps are out. The pistol will go the way of Shinden flawlessly.
And it's quite surprising, too. I guess it does make sense, though, that you see that flank from Digizine look deep into the left of the pillars. Because think about it, from Shinden's side, when you're playing this Killjoy that, you know, they're talking about at the desk, still cooking like the old style way of playing the map. You should have somebody like maybe anchoring up or watching the flank if the KG is not going to be the one watching that flank, right? And you don't see the turret anywhere. And you've already had presence from the KJ on the A side rumble control. So he clears that spot, and Snow has a perfect time to look back into B main to get that pick. So very good, at least to kick things off for Shinden to manipulate that map again off the timing of the gate crashes. So this might be a game really where it's going to be slow on the attack side for Shinden.
Definitely feels that way, but it is just a pistol. Let's not count our chickens before they hatch. Okay. Stop it. Should have figured that was coming. Orb collected over towards C. Ribs is going to try to make some noise and keep the defense interested over on A for now, but intentions look like this is going to be some sort of a C break. Paranoia is out, trying to force onto Rube. He's done well to avoid some of the incoming utility, but eventually does get caught, so that's going to be a weapon collected. And on your way to C goes the rest of the offense.
I'll tell you that for now. You sacrifice here, pistol for information, and now it allows for you to get an easy plant site on C. Weapon advantage for the Flood retake attempt. If they don't get a pick right away here for Solid, you're going to play at least to die to Spike. They still have util maybe with this Haunt. Try to get a pick.
Well, it's a high-low stack, and Digizine's going to be able to connect on to 1. So an opportunity to use some numbers to make your way back onto site, but the paint shells will convert another elimination. If there's going to be any sort of a retake, it has to be right now. And the shots are good. The Sheriffs are landing. So 3v2, but the time is running a little bit low. David's trying to play over towards the outside of the site. Able to get 1, but not the second. And that's going to be enough for time to defuse, and the anti-eco goes the way of the defense.
Thrifty.
Oh, so clean towards the end. If it wasn't going to be for an instant pick within that first maybe 5 seconds of contacting back into the spawn side, this definitely should have been like a let's die to Spike kind of scenario. But those sheriff shots were both landing for the side of Conan or for Digizine. And again, this is what was expected, or what we were expecting, at least, and what I was expecting when we're witnessing that first series. When 9Z has so much good players coming in from the VCTs, and with that experience, they can bring in that firepower as well, which was lacking a bit on that first map. It's definitely not lacking here with this roster, this experienced roster of Team Solid that has had all their hands in the pie here of the VCTs.
Oh, and the opener here. Shinden trying to find something on timing. Does not work out as Havoc will collect 2. Paint Shell's actually doing a formidable amount of damage in towards main, and yeah, this feels like Shinden's just trying to force something because he kind of have to, considering the weapons that they had. But at the moment, after the follow-up on the Thrifty, how about Team Solid looking clean here to build what would be a very reputable early financial gain?
And off the back here of Havoc. They mentioned at the desk, usually playing a sentinel role, and then when he switches over to a duelist, it's usually when they play on Bind, when they play this Yorui's as well. Now he pulls it up on the side, gets some picks, and Digizine's going to pick up the last few kills here, unless, you know, Vi's going to die somewhere else. But to continue the conversation around Havoc, he's definitely turned things around. I think the first time that I've watched him was he started off like 0-11 on Breeze as a KO to open things up and have a taste here of the VCTs, and then was kind of like struggling a little bit throughout his career and the little rounds that he played, the little maps that he played at the VCTs. But now since going back into the VCL here on the Brazilian side, he's been doing quite well on the Sentinel role. You saw it from the highlight reels, and it almost comes to show that maybe he was already comfortable in the first place playing a duelist, because he came into an initiator role from a duelist role in the past. So now you throw your util, you can use your guns, you can go for kills, and Havoc's perfect for the role here for Solid.
Looking good. Brazilians off early, and I'm sure the home crowd's gonna love that. Boombot insinuating that Shinden may want to try to play for this orb. Paint shells the counter. There's the door pop. A little bit of damage, but everyone survives. So expensive utility spend here for Team Solid. They will regain Mound, but Shinden is alive and largely well. Just have to get these last couple members out, and as they do, Snow's able to find a headshot on Digizin, and that'll be enough for numbers to continue to build as we get a 5v3.
Hoping to get a lurk out here from the one-way smokes, but Snow playing the Guardian like he's playing an operator so far. Already popping out the... Wait, that has to be accidental maybe? Because his team was not with him.
But it works, accident or not. Paranoia avoided, damage looking good, but Havoc can't find 3. Does make this plausible for potential 1v2. David is really low and is isolated. Body shot will do it, and that connects. Now to the 1v1 between Vipers. Rube over towards Waterfall. Poison Cloud comes out. And it's just going to push right through it. Bold play, and it works out as Shinden Gipa's tied at 2.
And very needed by Rube Kode. That's something here that was highlighted at the desk. A key player to this roster, and from lurks, from clutches. Very, very useful right now into the results that we've seen from this team of Shinden so far. Second seed coming out of LATAM, but it doesn't start until these openers from Snow, and it seems as though him being a little bit on that other side of the extremity from the one-way was a little bit disregarded from the side of the defense here from from the side of Solid, which kind of caught him off guard and opened up the C side quite easily. At least Solid was still able to fight back. So you're definitely seeing that this is a game here that can really go back and forth from good macro to also good hero plays from both teams.
Feels that way. Full purchase still available here for Team Solid in round 5. Showstopper available for Havoc. On the other side of things, though, one way from a Nightfall are Shinden. So there's the dark cover one way to try to block out action towards C. Spike leaning towards pillars, but not committing at the moment towards B. So not, again, like you mentioned, kind of from the pistol, a little bit of a slow approach, just trying to feel things out. And especially considering how much utility was spent on that battle for C main, why not if you're Shinden?
They've been doing a very good job keeping the economy quite low for the side of Solid here, keeping it at, you know, one player alive and all of them dying into these fights. So you can't really get this op out. So it gives them a chance to scale up a little bit more. But yeah, as we're talking about, like, easy aggressive positions, or that should be expected from that side when that wall comes down. Somebody's got to check that.
Well, Rube will kind of slip the net here a little bit. Nightfall will come through. Rube's going to find one. Counter trade by DJzen is good, though. And in that moment, Rube does get caught towards stairs. David by himself does well to catch one, and the lurk from Uri's is also really solid, so you can hit from the shadows, make your way over towards C. So now you go to the pivot man. Oh, really good off the decay. Really solid play, and now it's just down to David for the 1v2.
You even see the tether here from that C's. That was beautifully done here by PXS, key initiator player. And now David has to go on a 1 versus 2 at low HP.
It's up high. There's the first contact. Finds it. Snaps, but no. Traded back in just the right amount of time. So the Nightfall is spent. Doesn't really find the value. Hell of an opportunity to rotate over for the 1v2. Just does not quite come through.
PXS had his time also in challengers when he played with Stele in the past, which is probably the reason why he was eyed by 2G in the VCTs when, you know, you needed somebody that could probably travel very quickly because he has U.S. citizenship to be able to fill up for 2G side and be able to speak Portuguese with the team. So it's not only in terms of like a quick band-aid solution, but also he's been a very good initiator player in a role for the VCL last year, or 2 years ago, should I say. That gives a chance right now. It shows he proves his point rather on that retake from that site, rotating all the way from A to C to get the round now for Solid to take the lead. Big rifle round out for the side of TSS. Outlaw for Digizine, and he gets an opener with it.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is where finally the economy starts to go as more anticipated. Nice shots from Miri, just cannot fully finish off the elimination.
So not so nice.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not bad at that range, like you hit 2 out of the 3, just didn't hit the headshot. Like, what do you want from the guy?
I want a 145 and a 145.
You would, you egomaniac. Second opportunity for Deej is good, and now it's just down to 2, and both players are isolated and unable to do, well, you would think, not too much with.
Yeah, 1v5. Worst comes to worst, he could do some damage maybe onto Conan. That's one-shottable, as well as Digizine. Now he loses his angle from that clone being dropped out, and that's a flick right there. So again, you're really seeing the value that Digizine brings to this team, and probably the reason why as well that you're switching this composition for the side of Team Solid. Not only do you have still some great duelists and util available, which is probably that first thing that you want in this comp when you're approaching the map for Lotus for the side of Solid, but now you also have, and that's where you give it to Havoc, of course, but that's also now why you give a chance here, a little bit of room to breathe and really get a comfortable agent for an Opper.
Yep. Let that sink in a little bit, as it is all 5 ultimates ready for Solid. Viper's pit at the ready, as Havoc will try to set us off with some fireworks. Nightfall behind that, and outside of really just getting rubble control, not too much really comes of it, but apparently rubble control is enough, especially as Shinden tries to fight back into the location. Smokes will dissipate. Havoc is still a touch caught, but wants to take the battle. Great nano swarm to flush him out. And honestly, the trades are really valuable for Shinden. So we're gonna go 3v2 to the offense, but the Dimensional Drift is still ready.
Last player standing.
And that's what you wanted. The turret is currently helping out for rubble control, so somebody has to be watching that flank. They expected that. That's the second time now, not only on Snow, but now it's Rupkore that turns around and thinks about a forward push on that C side. So great swivel, head on a swivel, heads up play. Digizine traded out by that late lurk once again. So right now, I feel that if you're trying to find some value on your defensive side here on these flanks from Team Solid, you've done some great stalls, but you need to make sure that you're not rotating into super long angles, because these shots are coming out clean for the flank watchers. Right there, easy burst. Conan falls. They know the Viper's playing towards that BC side. This is just standard utility being utilized on how you're defending this A rubble control, right? You have Paranoia that can help out towards tree. You have a wall to help out on stall. C's native needed B. So you kind of know where the position's kind of at and where the weaknesses are, where you're allowing this Euro to get forward aggressive lines every single time they get picks before.
Yep. First blood this time kicks us off once again for Shinden. Full purchase across the board still for both teams. But the lockdown is the big influence right now, as Shinden continued to execute on this patience. Prowler does get negated, but really that was just kind of a, hey, look at us, as the hit is now making its way over towards C.
Bring them down.
Because they know that it's Conan playing on that side and there's not too much util to kick things off. You've already forced out a kill. You probably forced out the TP from the Yoru, so it's a weak site to hold.
Dimensional Drift just holding it back. This is going to cause some, I think, split focus. And yeah, there's the decoy. The offense will be aware that you've got at least the Yoru out beyond the brink of this site, but they can't find him. And all of a sudden, you've got an opportunity to try to isolate a couple of fights. And that's exactly what Digizine does over through the door. Vice is low. Rafa on the other side of the smoke is waiting for it to fade. Now you've got the Yoru back into play. How do you re-execute? It's gonna be behind a Paranoia. There's the blast pack play. Oh, what a good Paranoia. It hits 2 and Havoc follows up for both. Paint shells, flash. Murias is caught in the corner and Solid convert perfectly in the 3v3 retake.
My God, I think at this point, after watching Havoc playing in the first few rounds. I don't really care how he started in his debut as a KO on Breeze. I don't really care how he performed when he played with Furia. He's changed right now, man. He's aggressive. He's getting some great instinct plays and reaction times for instant headshots. Look at his movement coming through, the flick down onto Vi, and even jumping out, not overly confident to swing out against Marie's instant dink. This guy's definitely different. He's changed for sure, for the better. And that's extra firepower now for the team here of Solid, which now forces out the first timeout of Shinden.
Wow. It happens that quick. I mean, initially, you're dealing a 5v3. It's like you really couldn't ask for more if you're the attack right there. But again, it's just, almost in a very similar way that we saw from Envy. Just the quick adaptations, the quick mid-rounding to put yourself in a position to put pressure on what should be, I think in a lot of people's minds, a free execute. You hold them off, you throw a couple of considerations into the mix, and that changes everything. So the dimensional drift play works out really nicely to kind of stall out the lockdown attack a little bit longer than you would have anticipated. And then, of course, beyond that, just finding the kills behind the play, just never allowed the post plant to get set up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not only on Havoc's pristine aim that's really winning these rounds here for the team. It's the util behind that. So the combination that you saw from Conan throwing, or sorry, from the Omen throwing that flash on that side, Rafa back towards Ben to even fully blind a person. So they are doing a great job playing off each other and leveraging the utility in the right spots here for Team Solid to allow these duelists to really get some clean retakes. So the firepower supported by this cast is looking really good here on the defense. And Shinden, they want to try to disrespect that. An early TP all the way up here from that haunt. So David does get behind enemy lines.
Well, initial trade comes through, 4v4 early, messy battle, and that's going to work out for Shinden as well. Oh, and that's not great news. Fade will be put down to half HP. Rafa, the one that has to try to stand tall, and does well to catch one pretty cleanly. But there will be a plant behind this. And the number is still, rest with Shinden. And with Snow connecting, it's just on to Rafa for the 1v3.
Such a nice answer back here from Shinden after the timeout, and it's definitely going to feel good when it comes down to a timeout being called by the coach. Oh, wait, hold on.
Oh, no way. Rafa gets a clean two. Snow has a showstopper, but no blast packs. Do you try to commit into this? Rafa backs away. Paint shells will give a little bit of a clock advantage over to Snow. Here's the second toggle. Showstopper immediately out. Rafa trying to dodge the timing of it all. Finds the opening shot, but no, the showstopper is able to connect, and that will be enough for the round to come through.
Thankfully, you have Snow with paint shells and a showstopper to guarantee the round, because Rafa was looking in a pretty good spot to be able to clutch that 1 versus 3. But again, just to mention, a timeout being called from the side of Shinden and immediately get results out of that. That's going to bring a lot of confidence now to the team to try to take this back here in the matter of their own hands when they had such a good pistol round to kick things off. And that is off a half buy that they had. So off the combination to get value off the haunt, to allow David to get the TP towards the staircase and to gain that space for that team. That's just very nice to see at this level that you have like this EG style less type of play that you're going to force these ults around short low buys and still get some value out of it.
Well, a little bit of contact here for Solid defensive, but Havoc the first one to drop. But Snow gets caught over peeking just a touch. The Viper's Pit at C has been respected so far for Shinden, who seemed like they wanted to just walk through smoke over to A instead in a 4v4. Now, they'd have the Nightfall to help execute, and then they could try to really supplant the defense by affirming their position with a Viper's Pit. That seems to be the idea, but they're going to back away and instead try to reform.
It makes sense to back away, though, because you prowled towards that front side. You didn't spot anybody there, and you've also didn't get any contact towards rubble. So now you're expecting that Shinden are cutting noise and are maybe still staying towards the A side or late working right here towards that from B side. So I love here that PXS falls back because he still has a seize to hold out the front side and delay when they go for the exit on the attack for Shinden.
30 seconds left.
Well, here's the execute onto B. Gonna lead to a plant. There's the Viper's Pit to establish the position. How do we retake this if your team's Solid? They do have a Paranoia available and a couple of flashes. More importantly, though, they have all of the Fade utility they could possibly want to try to, silence the crowd in a certain way. And here comes a lot of it. Paranoia does not really land. The haunt doesn't reveal much either, I don't believe. The spam will work out, though, for the first. Time becoming a bit of an issue. You've got to force this if your team's solid. They've cleared a lot of the pit out, though. It's just down to can they find the players in the corners. David able to find at least an opportunity to stall a little bit longer onto the spike defuse. And it looks like the clock will, well, not fade fast enough. So Team Solid's going to find the retake.
Definitely felt that under the chaos that clock seemed to be ticking faster than we were expecting here, because it looked like for the side of the post plan of Shinden, they were in very, very good positions. But as you've just mentioned, the amount of util that was still available for that retake, Paranoia, the haunt, it doesn't ping anybody, but you hear the shots, you see the bullet trails inside the pit, you're able to trade that off, and suddenly people are starting to drop one by one into these aggressive angles, and they're spreading out a little bit across the pit, and then getting caught here by the 2vx's every single time that they're coming through here for trying to hold the pulse plant for Shinden. So defense solid now, no pun intended, but not this time around, as Conan gets dropped once again. And this, if it's another 50 converted, Solid is still not really in full control of this game.
No, not at all. So now a 3v5 develops. And this crossing angle better reap some reward, because you drop here, the floodgates have opened. A little bit of spam, mostly avoided, but now the fight forced, and that is going to be enough for a follow-up kill. So 5v2, weapons can now be somewhat earned, and it's really on to if DJZ can find like the lineup of the century here.
It's not even a turret watching the flank either. The alarm bot, though, is going to sound. Oh, he's just on the edge of it.
Oh, but no, the trade is in. Maybe a lineup opportunity for Rafa. Nope, not going to happen. And we have about as back and forth of an affair as you could possibly want right now through 11, 6-5.
And potentially even a 6-6 scoreline towards the end, because the economy looked pretty devastated for the side of Solid. Get a couple of them that maybe could go for rifles, but for the rest, it might be small shields, guardians. But this thrifty pick, I mean, the jiggle peaks instead of jump peeking or something like that. Easy crosshair placement on that second jiggle for someone like Snow, who's been opping nonstop into VCL when he was playing, not even rifling anymore. So he's just using bolt action every single time. Guardian, marshals, ops.
Well, here we go. Showstopper to kick us off, as Solid will get themselves established over at A. Meanwhile, the battle at B, at least in front of it at Pillars, will be won by Shinden again. So some of the opening aggression that we've seen from Solid has not really worked out for them. And based on numbers, we're cooking quickly towards a 6-6 half, pending, of course, that Shinden can get themselves restructured as they sit in the defensive spawn.
Yeah, and that's just a nice little call by Muniz. Hold that line, hold the timer for a bit, and look at how it spreads out the defense from the side of Solid. Yeah, they still have some good weapons to work with for their side, but look at how the minimap is being activated. They have to jiggle peek everything every single time. PXS doesn't have a haunt. Finally, as I mentioned it, he has it up, but they probably want to use that potentially for a retake. They probably need to keep the flash as well. So you're forcing players to really jiggle out. And if you're going for this late push towards the end, one of these guys potentially could overextend and you could really punish it. But Maurice now calls for the seaside pivot, and it's a good call because Rafa has given that up. They want to play the flood retake on that C site with this Omen and with the Fade.
30 seconds left.
Well, here's the execute. Rafa's just going to put a dark cover to see if it could stall out anything. No cause for concern, though, for Shinden, who will have a 4v3 post plant. If you can get a Nightfall, that would be very helpful to clear out the entryway to C main over towards Mount. Paranoia largely avoided, though, as David is able to get himself onto a bit of a high ground. Now you've got Rude playing on the opposite angle. Havoc able to find the opener, and just like that, in the blink of an eye, Havoc gets two, Rafa gets two. And give him credit for the 2v4. How? We didn't see any of it.
At least aside from the point of view, at least from the attack side on the post play, when the Havoc's just swinging out and jiggling like that and still winning fights. Just again, reaction is beautiful. Paranoia, they didn't have the haunt to work with here, Shift, which is why I was I was a little bit questioning what was happening there because they already used the haunt to try to throw it deep in case they had to deal with a lurk. So they're trying to find info and really just counting on the paranoia and the shots. And it's good enough for Havoc and Rafa to win the 2 versus 4 retake. 3 versus 4 retake.
Blown. That didn't look like that was about to happen. When the paranoia... Oh.
Salve, lindão. Salve, rapaziada. E aí, tá se divertindo? Pô, demais. Ficar aqui. Sempre que tem evento no Brasil é isso aqui, ó. Rapaziada torcendo, eu tô aqui, mano. Rapaziada empurrando e eu sentindo, mano. Como é que eu vou traduzir isso? This is Dan Jones. He's a Brazilian streamer, very famous. Ask him if he's having fun. He's having a lot of fun. All the energy of the crowd. The Brazilian crowd always crazy. E Danny, eu tô achando, tá muito bom pra nós, amigo. Mas sempre tá, né, pô? A gente tem 5 estrelas ali que já jogaram na franquia, vieram aqui, estão com o sonho de voltar e a gente tá torcendo pro maridão voltar pra franquia. Torceram muito. I asked him that it's looking really good for Team Solid. If we can believe, and he said they are like 5 legendary players. They're really good. Quanto vai ser o placar desse mapa? 13-8 Team Solid. 13-8 Team Solid. 38, that's his prediction. Valeu demais, gato. De volta com vocês.
All right, we're back. Sometimes the live production to the remote production gets a little mixy, but the point still
I still
stands.
love how you ended the sentence, though. Paranoia.
Yeah,
Which is basically what happened for the post play for Shinden. It's a 4 versus 2. We got this. We're just getting blasted now by Havoc and Rafa. And again, it was a broken buy that they had shipped. So it comes to show that, again, in terms of how these 2 teams match up, the desk is right. They are quite even. And how good they are playing as a team, as a group in these chaotic moments.
Yeah, very true. Well, let's get back into the action here. 7-5 the count as we swap the sides around. And for Team Solid in the edge, the lead, I will say their defensive side has, well, marginally been better than their offensive side. But like you kind of mentioned as we were loading into this, like plenty of reps when it comes to both of these 2 teams on this map. So kind of throw the stats out when you've got as much opportunity to play the map as they have, especially when the defensive versus offensive win rates have been as even as they have been. So yeah, important pistol here. And that's about it.
55-55 pretty much in terms of attack and defense, though, for Shinden, right? So it's, despite them liking to have all these reps on this map, it could still be very swingy. And it's swingy because of maybe, lack of preparation or some calls maybe not working out, but at least they have Snow and Rootkoide to really help out in terms of that firepower to go to toe-to-toe against Havoc and Digizine.
Well, Solid will get some free entryway onto A. Double flank hit, though, on the way. That is going to be watched by Conan. If you can find one, that'd be fine. Okay, 1 for 1, and now you have affirmed that there is more on the flank. How do you set up your post plant from there? Do you want to try to battle and isolate, or do you want to try to step forward and play your numbers in a different way? May get caught kind of making an indecision moment right now, as Muris is able to work his way back around the corner, take away one of the angles. Snow trying to open up space through a tree. Doesn't work out initially, but the trade is in. Time becoming a bit of an issue. Rube trying to make his way back on, and Snow will find his 3rd, looking for more than that. Eventually shut down, but Rube is there for the quick trade, and the pistol will go to Shinden.
Yep, nice little flood back in the end. So you really needed your 2 players to activate first towards that rubble, so that at least you trade that out. And once you trade that out, you still have 3 players on the top of the staircase. 1, watching that line so that nobody's swinging out from breakable door. But secondly, that alarm bot placed by Maurice confirms that nobody's really trying to push forward in the very beginning in these post-plant scenarios. So where are your gaps? It's towards heaven, it's towards sight. So make sure you clear out at least your flank, working as a group, and storm in together. And they did exactly that. And to perfection. Look at how they're good and always instant when they're going for these trades right after. Snow didn't really need that much, but you see how immediately you have some players to help out right there. Oh, look at these. Look at these kings.
These kings.
Love me, the Brazilian casters.
Well, that was well, I won't say unexpected first blood, but the overcommitment for Shinden does get punished. Oh, my. Okay, well, Rafa gets punished. Deej is able to find his way back into the site, but oh, mercy. The judge hits twice, and Vise will put it down to 1. 1v2. Spike still in hand, though, so an opportunity.
That'll be the best thing you want. Vise is actually very close to getting picked off too. He's very low HP, so there's still some respect you have to be given. And now a weapon's picked up though. Ooh.
Not gonna matter. Close, but the judge in the backside of the site connects twice, and it's like another one of those like, whoa, you kind of get out of the smoky panic and you just kind of hit the trigger twice, and oh, great, got him. Like, it did feel a little mixy, but it works out beautifully, and the anti-eco this time will be converted by Shinden.
They started off so well too. Honda got information off. Probably a flash play as well that guarantees that ping. I love the satchel movement as well coming out from Havoc. Makes sure that he could just land instantly on top of that ledge to get that pick right after. So they were able to get at least a player advantage, but unfortunately had to meet up against a judge as they try to enter towards that C site. At least the rifle round is good because of these 2 plants that they placed for Team Solid. It's an early rubble control that actually all 5 players are committed towards that, and nobody to watch flank. And that's the style that you're going to have to play this time for Solid. You're always going to have somebody staying behind because you're not playing a true Senti.
Yeah, very true. Door to tree will open. Wow, Shinden's going to kind of commit to playing into drop. First shots are good under Rube. David able to find one. Outlaw shots thrown blindly will not connect, and that should be the outcome of the round. Whoa, but Snow, while blind, just pops himself up and says, hey, how are you? Able to find at least one more, but looks like the bonus will come up a bit short unless Muris can tap some heads.
I just want to put out point something small out here for Solid as well when they're scaling up on this A site like that. You see that early in the round, Digizine places a TP towards that back of the A entrance. So not only is it the same type of like responsibility as a chamber trying to bait out utility and TP out, but he could also be the one.
One enemy remaining.
Imagine if I
Well, is there? No. Just I love just hearing you just be like, oh. Like,
I mean, it's a moment that's not supposed to happen, but then Maurice is able to get some clean shots out of that one. But again, needless to say is, think about the other thing too that you could do with this Euro TP that they leave behind towards that rubble. Because you're not playing any true Sentis, you could almost play it almost like a G2 style when you had this Tejo meta, where you have a lot of utility that really helped Jogamo get into sites, but once he gets that space and people follow behind him, he TPs out to safety because he's still trying to get as much space as possible. And once he TPs out, he's the one watching flank and catching the rotates. You could think about that in terms of playstyle that Digizine could do here for Solid as they're working towards A again.
toxin screen down.
8-7 the count. Odin in play. Showstopper at the ready for Snow. So the defense has some power weapons in play, if you want to call them that. And for Solid, kind of keeping to this same, like, not like committing to anything early, but like showing force and like trying to see if they can catch any intel from Shinden committing some of their own utility, but they really haven't been primed to do that. It's been a lot of sit-back defense so far.
Mm-hmm. They've already identified the Odin too that we're trying to bring out Provi. So already committing to avoid that and just go for a B-side pop. When it works out, they already got the space.
So Spike will be planted. Do we use the Showstopper for retake? And I asked that question intentionally because look at the post plant. There really aren't a lot of members on site. So if we're banking on Showstopper to land, might be a countered. Oh, it's like a game of Quake. Rockets versus Rockets. Follow-up action starting to come on through. The Guardian not going to land as David able to find one. Rafa, Conan, DJ also in position, though, to trade. And Rube, well, he's going to try to desperately work something out, but there's Rafa behind it, and it's Rocket Warfare benefiting the offense this time.
Yeah. I don't know if people know Quake when you mentioned Rocket Arena, though. Well, I mentioned Rocket Arena. You mentioned Quake. Quake 3, I think, came out in like 2001. That's when I started playing. I played Quake 2 in 99. That said, though, it's still a fun game that people could just revisit from time to time. But look at that. Just contact to contact. And then I think that's the idea. You asked the question, are you going to try to use the Showstopper for the retake? And I love the fact that we gave the plant over to Havoc's side because he gets his own Showstopper too. So you're basically just nullifying one-to-one what's happening into the flood retake attempt, and there's no space really taken right after that for the side of Shinden to be able to take because the Showstopper didn't get too much value. So nice little sacrificial lamb play here for Havoc, and now TSS are putting Shinden back into an eco.
Opportunity to snowball this map just a touch. Especially considering the Showstoppers are off, and, well, most importantly, I think you looked at the defense, and the lockdown is not at the ready yet. So if you win 10, you might be able to get to 11 before the lockdown even comes into play. So a lot of opportunities. Guys, it looks like this hit's going to brew towards C, and Muri's is in a good spot with the Stinger. Just comes down to how many, if any, he can find.
It'll just be honest, right? You'll probably have like the dimensional drift maybe to move in if they need to, but already with Rafa moving in, getting a pick, I think it's not needed anymore.
Muri's for one. Did get traded. Snow follows up. Nightfall in play.
Mark 3.
But this has been okay here for the defense, especially with an opportunity to double up. But the shots land. Conan's able to provide the kills needed, and that will be 10. Dangerous one, to be sure, but again, with the economy where it is, still relatively, well, comfortable to say the least.
It should be, yeah. Especially when the other rounds that they've completed on their side in these pulse plants have been quite clean for the side of Solid. And they still have a dimensional drift to work with, so you have to cycle too many ults when you're fighting in that chaos on that C site, which is a small little W for Solid, despite them losing that many players against the lower buy of Shinden. Great shots coming out here from Conan as well. And this is the last timeout now being called out, or at least available now from the side of Shinden. And hopefully this is going to be a very good timeout. They've already converted one last time that they did it.
Yep.
But if they're able to control the temple right after this timeout being called here, it might give a chance for them to force a timeout on their opponents, and they could continue and hopefully catch up to this game.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen enough from both sides to, I think, like, look at the playbook and be like, all right, this is what's going well. This was what, you know, it's kind of falling a little bit short. It feels like, again, like, I won't say a coin flip, but the tug of war is still very much so alive. Now,
Yes.
I think the big difference at the moment is that Team Solid, I think, have really put themselves in good positions in their post plant to be able to respond to the ideas of retakes that we've seen so far from Shinden, and I think that's the big conversation point here. I mean, especially considering how this half has gone. Like, yes, the pistol, the anti-eco, technically are defensive wins, but they do come by way of retaking. So I would say, you know, categorizing these first 5 rounds, a lot of it has been Team Solid getting the executes that they want to be able to at least put themselves in a position to set up some sort of a post plant.
We're not for Shinden, it's setting up an op. So it's being purchased by Snow. They didn't go for huge util to take rubble control, just because they want to play the lockdown soft side on retake and then util to stall outside of that radius, which is why Digizine's pushing forward.
Welcome to my world.
Plant is out. Gate crash back to safety. And the Viper's Pit will hold its integrity here. Paranoia at the ready for David. This comes down to when do they actually want to hit this retake. There's the Paranoia, cuts across the backside of the site, but there's not really an entryway here through Waterfall or from the backside of the site. Shinden does find one, but here comes the follow-up pit, and this is where the pit becomes dangerous. Time becoming an issue now. Vi's trying to work his way back in. And the word's gonna run away. I was about to say, like, that Paranoia cuts across the backside of the pit, but what do you use to actually clear it? And the answer is you can't.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you have Digizine out in the open and gets the crucial kill right there at the open at the bend, and then you see everyone's trying to spray through and they're not finding any contact as they're scaling back inside the site, then that's just an easy play for Team Solid to say, let's back up. Once we all take mound, we could drop that pit, and then we could just play post plant spams. And Shinden didn't want any of that, especially when they've already invested heavily into the operator and the rest of this buy. Oh, the offshot was so close to hit Digizine through the smoke, and that maybe could have helped at least to start snowballing that retake on that side for the defense. But it wasn't the case. We are living in a reality here that you couldn't really get real value off your retake. Now you still have a pretty decent buy because you still have 4 weapons to work with in this round with a Guardian now by David.
Yeah, but this is, I won't say this is the map right here, but it's going to feel like we're at the breaking point.
Yeah.
If you lose this, if you're Shinden, I should say, because the economy will be in tatters afterwards, and you really, again, don't have The ultimates that you want. Murray's just does not take a wide enough angle to see the body of Rafa, who finds 2 before falling. Free plant at C. And again, it's just like, oh, you might just have to save here if you don't find anything initially. Paranoia sidestepped. Snow thinking about it, but we'll see that this has been cleared out. Vi is trying to find something with the Prowler. Does not even get deep into sight whatsoever, as Havoc is still holding. But the kill comes out, so now 3v3. How do you work your way through this smoke? You just jump right onto it with a shorty, but Dijizin says not so fast. And now you can just dance around the outskirts of these smokes. Gotta force it if you're Shinden. The angle gonna be spammed out. The smoke will fade. Do they have the proper pre-fire? Do they have the proper pre-fire? No, they don't. And David's gonna be able to confirm the defuse and keep Shinden alive.
And that was a huge round by Vise. If you're looking at how, I mean, we didn't see it unfortunately, but it was that fight on the top of CT. So as soon as you move forward and you're trying to take that space, the Paranoia maybe force some players back, but you still saw some over commitment on the side of Solid to just try to snuff out the defensive hold in the end. And that first kill that you saw coming out from Vi allows her to move out, clutch out onto the mound as, you know, you're spraying for your life, trying to stop the diffuser. And they're not going to get that Inspire play this time around in that Seaside post plant. Comes out beautifully here for Vi to allow Shinden to get that round. And again, a round where they could salvage the Yop after that too. After getting the defuse, so they're in a decent spot right now. And there you go, instantly calls out the timeout. This gives an opportunity now for Godson as well to talk to his team.
Yeah, and I don't think this timeout is going to be like a let's recap and then, you know, therapeutically break down what went wrong in that last round. That's just, I mean, you're set up perfectly. You deal with a lot of that initial retake fine.
Yep.
But Vi just makes a great play. So I think this is about just how do we get these last couple of rounds to win this map? You know, what do we have coming up? Where's our economy? Let's just make sure that we are in a good position to know what our game plan is of how we intend to close this map out.
And so far, it's been finding that success on that C site. And I agree with you. I think this timeout coming out from Bo over here on the side of Solid is just to say, look, we just got unlucky on that side, but we've been very good figuring out where the op's being placed at the beginning of the round. We're eliminating the value that Snow has on the op, and then we have this double TP satchel play onto the C site to take. We're just going to be clean on the post plans and not overcommit too much.
Oh, what? Opening first blood by paint shells through A rubble. So all of a sudden, you're sitting here like, well, 5v4, and really it's a 3v5 if you think about it, because you're going to have Conan just walked in the flank for the time being. And you don't have many tools to break back into sight now without your smoke being available.
Yeah, it was a nice read over on Shinden, because you saw that Rafa plays that smoke behind Rubble and tries to TP in it, and they actually threw the Season 8 right at that spot instead of back towards main. So it's nice for them to use that util to get value out of that. The Omen ult even gets value as it spots all 4 players. So the instant rotates is coming out now from the operator of Snow.
Well, looks like Solid want to try to go quickly. Prowler, Boombot, countered by Nightfall. David able to find another. So really, after the timeout, this didn't go well. Maybe a chance to still isolate though. Good from Conan for the first. Good overwhelming presence as they come back to it. And whoa,
it was perfect. It was perfect.
Where's our trades? Where's our trades?
Hey, if anything, I was gonna say there was a little bit of pressure. I think you could have given that plant back to Havoc, but they're realizing that they only had a small window for Conan to get the 4K.
We're talking 3v5 and all 3 survive after after they legitimately were red right off the get-go. Like Prowler, Boombot, denied by Nightfall. You don't have much space to work with, but the setup on the site for the defense just cannot hang.
But that, I mean, the Nightfall, the tethers are coming out. You have info where some players are at, and you're trying to just get the pick. But the off angle is being played out, and disrespecting the Nightfall on the side of TSS to individually win all of those fights is quite nice. A nice little answer back. And look at what they have now on defense. I mean, at least they have enough Season 8 kill, but they don't have too much weapons to work with.
Yeah. Can you hit a shot here if you're Snow? Oh, mercy. That is a shorty kill. I mean, that's a shorty kill if I've ever seen one. Tight grouping. as we've got numbers advantage on the 4v2 for the map here for Team Solid. This is Shinden's map pick. And I love this. Solid is just going to pause and make sure that they're not caught by some weird stinger shotgun situation.
Which is fine. Just wait out these smokes. Some people are going to be potentially overextending. And you're probably just going to wait for the next cycle too. TSS has his haunt ready to go. They have paint shells as well. And even a showstopper to open it up. But
yep.
It's just a simple stop and go here that should still come out in their favor.
Well, Murray's clean for the first. Okay. Does his job to get his 2.
30 seconds left. Spike planted.
Spike down. PXS trying to block off ropes, and then will just challenge himself, find the headshot, and Team Solid, after a very back and forth affair to get us kicked off, take over to start the second half, and really don't look back afterwards to take Shinden's map selection and go up 1-0.